of October 10th, 2024. We'll start with the roll call. Maureen.
Maureen Fayes, interim township manager.
Robert Scott, Township Solicitor.
Max Cooper, Ward 1 Commissioner.
Matt Garson, Ward 2.
Kate McKenzie, Fourth Ward.
Beth Henry, Ward 3. Shannon Barnes, Fifth Ward.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Robert O'Connor here from Ward 6.
Hi, Candace Carbone, Ward 7.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will have executive session after the meeting tonight. Next on the agenda is our exciting announcement of the township manager. It's listed as appointment on here. Bob, do I need to do anything official with that, or is this just?
Yeah.
something that needs-
Yeah, you need to vote to appoint a township manager.
Okay. So we have gone through an extensive process to replace Dave Grady, who's somewhat irreplaceable, but we are ready for our new chapter. And so we are really excited. Well, I guess I will make a motion and then we will be excited. I will make a motion to appoint Maureen Fayes as the new township manager effective. We had October 14th. On Monday, October 14th. Can I get a second?
Enthusiastically
Yeah.
seconded.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries 7-0. And thank you, Maureen. We're really impressed with what you've been doing.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. I really appreciate everything and your kindness and looking forward to working with you in this new capacity.
Thank you. You've been doing a wonderful job as interim, managing pretty much 4 jobs. So we will actually on to the next topic. We will reduce that by having a new assistant manager who's also here with us tonight. I checked with her and she made sure it's okay. She let me know it's okay to announce that she's not officially starting till November 4th as she transitions, but we're really excited to have Katie Kennedy as the new assistant. Anyone here for public comment? Does not look like it. We still have openings on the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Will there be another opening after we make this appointment on EAC, or we just need? Are there, okay, so we still do have openings on the Environmental Advisory Commission. So please keep reminding your residents of that. We will make we will consider an appointment tonight for Jennifer Ashbrook. I believe she is in the 2nd Ward and spoke with Commissioner Garson. Her statement of interest is in our shared folder. And so I will make a motion to appoint Jennifer Ashbrook to the Environmental Advisory Commission. Second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries 7-0. The minutes from September 26th are in the packet. I know Commissioner Garson had a couple edits that I believe were made specifically to some budget discussion that we had. So I will make a motion to adopt the minutes from our meeting for September 26, 2024. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries 7-0. Is there anything on the solicitor's report that's not otherwise in the
No,
agenda?
thank you. Madam Clerk.
Anything in the engineer's report that's not otherwise on the agenda?
Thank you, President McKenzie. The only thing I do want to mention is the phase 2 of the street resurfacing. I believe we got a contract set for execution.
Okay.
If everything's in order, they're actually ready to start the week of October 21st.
Oh.
That's paving Avondale and the streets of Aquatour up in this neighborhood.
Which streets are those?
It's like Avondale, piece of Sykes, Church, and I think a little piece of streets of Aquatour up
Okay, nice.
early in the summer.
Okay, so are we doing that otherwhere?
No, it's just a lot of your time.
It's just-
Everything's already.
Okay.
Just need to sign.
All right, so that wasn't officially on the agenda. Are we still good to vote on that, Bob?
You don't need, it was already
We don't-
awarded. It was just information.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you for the information then. So we have somewhat of a light agenda tonight. It's a budget focused meeting. We actually do not have anything on the government relations report. building and zoning or infrastructure and public works. So we will move on to Parks and Open Space with Commissioner Henry.
Thank you, President McKenzie. I just had one issue and we actually discussed it at last meeting. We do need to adopt a field use pricing and permit policy. And it was kind of sparked by Gooley Field opening, but we don't have one. Thank you. We don't have one generally. And so there is a draft out in our shared folder. I had made some comments a couple of weeks ago. I think Solicitor Scott has as well, and the township manager, interim at the moment, Maureen, has as well. So I would just encourage everybody to go there. If you have any, issues, if you want to introduce anything to it, you can go in there and comment. I'm going to be working with Maureen in the next week to try to firm that up and then have a better proposal probably next meeting or the following. So that's all I had.
Thank you, and I appreciate you sort of taking that and running with it and making some recommendations to us. We will go on to Public Safety Committee report with Commissioner Garson.
Thank you. The first item on my agenda is the local share account grant application, which is due November 30. A couple meetings ago, the board discussed about applying for that grant opportunity in order to get 6 license plate readers to place around town to hopefully assist the police department if there's any stolen car situation in the future. I understand the chief was writing up a proposed summary for us. Do we have it?
It's in the folder.
It is in the folder. One moment. Yeah, I didn't see it in the folder, Maureen. There's 3B, there's 3C, but when I opened that was just, it looked like it was just the actual grant itself.
It's the program book,
Right.
with the grant guidelines. Right. But then there's a,
And it's okay. We could act on this at the next meeting. We have time because I understand it's not due until November 30.
It might make sense to wait for him anyway. He can
Yeah.
explain to us.
All right, why don't we, in the interest of moving along, why don't we, take that up at the next meeting?
sounded like.
It's in there.
It is in there?
I just heard them.
You just put it in.
Oh, you just put it, all right. Receipt.
No, if you refresh it with a pop-up.
Well, that's just the guidelines, right? That's not chief summary. So I think,
Just put- Let's, it's not gonna jam us up if we take it. No, let's do it at the next, because I want to read the chief's letter and digest it. All right. Moving on here. The next item on my agenda is the allocation of the 2024 volunteer fire relief funds. There's a resolution in our packets that I understand needs to be signed. I understand at the last meeting, the board voted to allocate the funds 50-50 with the caveat that South Media Fire Company needed to provide some evidence to our solicitor that the finding in the audit had been taken care of.
They did forward me something and I believe it was sufficient, but I need to give it another review.
Okay, if we sign this resolution now, that won't,
Just doesn't matter.
Okay.
It was, the distributions was conditioned, so.
okay, then in the interest of moving things along, I will move to the Providence Township Resolution number 2024-14, which states that the township will evenly distribute the 2024 Volunteer Fire Relief Association funds among the 2 Nether Providence Township fire companies. And those amounts are for Garden City Fire Company, $56,151.96, and South Media Fire Company, $56,151.95. Can I get a second? Any comments or questions?
I guess, are we just saying this is resolution on the formal, kind of, documentation review by,
Yeah.
He said he thought it was, but he just wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
did
last-
that before.
We approved the concept last meeting, but there was no resolution on the table.
So do we need to make the resolution contingent, or do you feel satisfied with the document?
I can, feel comfortable that you can go ahead and approve this as is.
Okay.
And you can always hold back the money if I find it's not sufficient.
Can I get a second? Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries 7-0. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to skip the finance administration for now and move on to community health and environment with Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you. First, we have our annual 12th Family Fun Day coming up on October 12th from noon to 3. We'll have food options, games, petting zoo, police, fire trucks, craft vendors, and more. Admission is free as well as most activities are. Next up, we have the curbside leaf collection, which will begin the week of October 14th for wards 2, 3, and 4, the week of October 28th for wards 1, 5, 6, and 7. Residents are asked to please keep the leaves off the road and on the edge of your lawn in order not to clog the storm drains. Please make piles as long as you can along your front yard. Schedule is available on the Township website and Facebook page. And then last, we have our recycling contract to look at with BNL. It's expiring at the end of this year. Currently, the rate is $78.34 each per household. We have the option to extend the contract for another year at $92.58 per household, or we can put it out to bid. Does anyone have any?
Yeah, I think that's pretty expensive. And I think we had talked about maybe, oh, this is not the stick thing, sorry. This is, okay, this is just extending it for a year, okay.
Is the contract on the draft? Is there any harm to putting it out to bid? If we found that there were no better bids than that, could we then come back and extend the contract?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that's kind of a big jump. What other-
There's in all likelihood a deadline by which you need to elect, and putting it out to bid will take a solid 6 weeks. Do you recall what's the deadline under for our exercising the option, do you know? For the 3rd year?
I have to go back and look at the contract.
Yeah, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it could well be a timing issue.
Well, like, given that, I don't know what you're seeing in other municipalities. Is there, like Candace said, is there any harm, since we don't meet again for 2 weeks, to authorizing to go out to bid, and then we don't necessarily have to do it, right? We could authorize her to do it and then, based on the view of the contract, not do it if it doesn't make sense?
Sure.
What was the rate last year, like when we renewed before? What's the history?
78.
78.
Hmm.
Well, that's what it is right now.
Right.
But what was
She-
it
she
before?
means-
What was the history?
Okay.
Was it
I
a big
think-
jump again?
That's a good question.
All right, I think we need more information on this. So let's, I think we should probably vote to go out to bid so that we don't lose the opportunity to do that. And then, Bob, how can we best decide that? Would that be then we would authorize the manager to go out to bid if,
I think you would see what other municipalities are paying for next year, if, places that have contracted more recently might have fresher numbers.
and then if the manager in consultation with you believes we should go out to bid, then she can do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we can
Right.
kind of shop, contact the COG, see if we can see what other people are paying. And determine whether it's sufficiently different to be worth going out.
All right, you good? with
There,
that?
this
Or
is
you want
a,
me to do it?
You can do it.
Okay.
yeah, this is an area where there's really only 2 to 3 bidders. It's a
Yeah.
Small universe of bidders. It's, I'm not, optimistic that there's going to be a big swing, but we can look into it.
All right, let's look into it. So I will make a motion to authorize the township manager to go out to bid for a 2025 recycling contract pending review by the manager and our solicitor and, consultation between the two. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Shayna. And then we will go to finance administration. I'm going to do the budget last, so we're going to go on to 1B for now. And that's the state aid. We mentioned this at the last meeting that we get state aid for our pension contributions, the MMOs that we'll talk about in more detail before, and we've talked about in previous meetings. Former township manager Dave Grady was doing the calculation to determine what portion of the state aid we should put in the uniform and non-uniform pension plans, and that was done. So I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-18. Whereas to comply with the municipal minimum obligation for, actually, this has different dates all over it. So this would be, we're allocating for 2024, is that right? And do you have this resolution in front of you, Bob?
I do not.
All right,
I can read over Maureen's shoulder though.
so we'll,
Okay. It should be a 2025. Yeah, yeah.
So they
In
both-
in both cases, it should be 2025. 2025. Okay. 2014, 18, yeah. So we can print a fresh one after with those corrections.
okay, so we have corrections, so we'll vote to approve it, but I'm not going to sign this copy. So I will make a motion to approve resolution 2024-18, whereas to comply with the municipal minimum obligation for year 2025, prepared by the township's actuary Mock and Hop benefits, the state aid funds are to be allocated as follows. To the police pension plan, $176,163.55, and to the non-uniform pension plan, $75,498.65. Can I get a second? Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries 7-0. Next is a resolution for pension plan, signatories. This is to remove Dave Grady, keep me on there, and to add Maureen Fayez as authorized trustees and signers for the uniform and non-uniform pension plans. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-15 to remove Dave Grady, retain Caitlin McKenzie, and add Maureen Fayez as signers for the pension plans. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. This is similar. We need to approve a resolution for the services of computer share, and we have to change the people who are authorized to sign checks and conduct business on behalf of the township. This is also related to pension, no. What is this? What is computer share? Oh, for our debt service. Got it. All right. So with respect to our debt service, I will make a motion to approve resolution 2024-16. Whereas the township manager Maureen Fayez and President Caitlin McKenzie are authorized to sign checks and conduct business on behalf of the township for computer share matters. Can I get a second? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. We have one more of these. So we had talked about the MMO, and we'll talk about more when we go deep into the budget. This is our minimum municipal obligation. Bob, this is also for 2025, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we're gonna need to
And
change.
this one, you already approved it. We just didn't have the paper on the table last week to
Okay.
sign.
Well, so I still don't, so am I just signing this? Yeah, but do I need to do anything with it other than that? I just sign it?
No,
after?
just sign it.
Okay.
Yeah, September was when it needed to be approved and it
Okay,
was.
that also needs the dates updated, so I am not going to sign that right now. And we are going to move on to the budget. If you didn't already, please go in the shared folder and open the Excel file, so you have it in front of you. For our newer commissioners, may have not gone through a budget cycle or only 1 or 2 budget cycles. This is what it looks like. The column A is all of our different line items, revenue first and expenses towards the bottom. For every $50,000 that's added to the budget, that is a 1% tax increase. We have historically aimed to keep our tax increase at about 3% because we are a static tax base, relatively static. It's, we don't have incomes raising such that a consistent tax rate would result in more money. It's not necessarily how it works unless property values are, the assessments are increased. So we have historically felt like a 3% tax increase is somewhat inconsistent with the cost of living increase and is somewhat consistent with a lot of our fixed expenses like insurance and things that go up year over year. And we've just run through several of them, like the municipal obligation, minimum obligation. So I have sorted my columns based on items that are already entered in here as an increase over the 2024 budget. So you'll see the different years marching along from left to right. The 2024 budget that was approved last year is column L. There are notes added here that show you where we are through the year, and those can be particularly helpful for things like tree removal, which somehow has just gone crazy over the last several years, I guess related to ash tree issues. But that'll be helpful to show if there are already overages or even underages in 2024. The last probably 6 or 7 years, the way we've done the budget is start with the budget from the year before and then make necessary adjustments. Many years ago, it sort of started as a wish list, and then we'd start looking at the budget that had like a 25% tax increase, which was just crazy. And then you're trying to whittle backwards, and that did not work very well. So this way does seem to work a lot better. There are a lot of line items that we don't have any control over, like insurance and things like that. So, and salaries, which are a huge portion of our budget. So it's important to understand the things we're focusing on are generally a pretty small portion of the budget. A lot of it's fixed. A lot of the revenue's fixed, as the majority of it is real estate taxes and realty transfer taxes. So that being said, let's try to focus on column P. The ones I went through and noted the adjustments, I sort of made that column for myself. I probably should have done that and then circulated it to everyone if you're not an Excel person. But there are a couple of line items that are going to go up a lot and we don't have much control over. The one is the MMO, and I want to maybe talk to Dave or our actuary or really anyone. I mean, this is a huge, right now we have the MMO increasing by $204,000. I am not sure if that line item takes into account whether we've gotten any increase in the state aid, but I'm guessing that this is probably, we were somewhat expecting this. We used our non-revised MMO from last year, which we knew was going to increase significantly from one year to the next. I think this is more than we were expecting, or at least that I was expecting. And so that right there is a 4% tax increase without anything else. And so that's something, I know that there is some sort of contribution smoothing, and I don't know really much other than that is a thing. And I don't know if we're able to do anything about this number this year. So Bob, I don't know if you have anything to add on that, or if that's something we should try to use Dave in his consulting capacity and talk to maybe our pension advisors at all.
You certainly can. I think it's probably too late because September is when you're supposed to make put in the minutes what your MMO is. And
Okay.
while they can do, smoothing, I think that option would have had to have been pitched to you then.
Well, that is not great.
Yeah. Now, I could be wrong and we can check.
Well, let's
I-
see if there's anything we can do about that, because that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we are gonna be really, yeah, we are basically gonna be in a really bad situation if we can't do anything about that number. So let's see if there's anything at all we can do. Bob, Maureen, and please talk to
And
Dave
is that,
and anyone else that we can talk to.
is
about
that is that big increase attributable to anything in particular? Larger number going out of retirement or any particular?
We got a whole explanation from it last time, and it was like, I understood it at the time, and has a million different factors. And I
Yeah.
know that we got a revised MMO based on evaluation that came out late, and we did not have to accept it. And our pension was sufficiently funded that we didn't feel like we had to disrupt the budget last year, but it's
Yeah.
disrupting the budget this year. So, and I also know that we have been very conservative with our interest rates. And our pension advisor has applauded us for that, but I think we've been overly conservative. Like, the way I understand it, we are the most conservative of all his clients. So while we don't want to be aggressive, we don't also want to
don't
have a
be-
huge tax increase.
Right,
So,
maybe in the middle.
yeah. So let's all hands on deck to figure out what to do about that, because that's really a game stopper right there if we can't figure that out.
I have a meeting with Dave on Tuesday.
Okay, so let's figure that out.
What's our fund balance, you know? If we do get stuck, can we dip into that to, smooth things out?
Yeah, and I
Or
don't
at least
know if
have
the
that discussion.
way, is that on here, Maureen? I don't know if the
It's
way,
not.
okay, I don't, yeah. Our fund balance is healthy, although we've had several overages this year, so we have been eating it to a little bit. So that's also something, I'm gonna make a list of things that we need to think about for next time, which is MMO and what's our fund balance and whether, I think the other piece of the MMO is whether we expect this to be better in 2026, such that if we used fund balance in 2025, are we going to be all right in 2026, or is this an ongoing problem? I didn't think that it was. I thought the way it was explained to us is that we were gonna have a spike and it was gonna go back down. But I don't understand enough about it. We need to figure that out.
I have a question. How do we come to that number, the MMO contribution that's,
Our actuary computes it.
okay. So we're being told that. Okay.
Yes, and it also has to do with evaluation of our pension assets, which we use interest rate assumptions in there.
Okay.
And so we've been very conservative with the assumptions. So that's why if we are less conservative, would we come up with a number that's still very acceptable and is funding our pensions in a good way, but it's not, we're sort of not on the leading edge of,
Right.
being conservative.
Okay.
So that's what we need to think about. We need to think about our fund balance for next time. The other line item to talk about next is line number 97, which is our full-time salaries. Maureen, do you have in there, does that include your salary and Katie's? And is that why it does not? What does that include in there? Is that,
What number line are you on?
that's 97? Because that is an $84,000 increase over last year, so I'm just trying to understand why. I mean, that should, without Daryl Dixon's salary, we have not replaced him, and we did not. I'm just trying to understand why we're already 84,000 over. So that's, I know this is all new to us. We are definitely missing our CPA here. So let's just think about why that is and actually get an accurate number there. I want to make sure Public Works, which seems to be down a guy and a high paying guy, and we, I just wasn't expecting it to be that over. So let's just try to understand that for next time and who's in there. And now we have actual numbers for what our township manager and assistant manager will be for 2025. So let's get them in there accurately so we know what we're talking about. Repairs to township building, you can't afford. Line 143. So that is a $30,000 increase, which apparently we need to replace 2 heaters. Are those like HVAC units? Okay. Okay, well, let's think about that and get some more detail on that for next time.
Kick that to
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, I don't know how dire that is, so. Yeah. Well, we're getting new windows, so we're gonna retain our heat better. Okay, and so overtime, can you go to line 163? The way I've sorted, I don't know, is that police or is that public works overtime? 163.
Looks like it's police.
Yeah, so we need to talk to the chief. So we have an ongoing unfortunate problem with police overtime, and that line item looks like the projection for 2025 or the request. Chief couldn't be here tonight, but he will be giving us an overview of his line items at some point in the police section. This is 32,000 over 2024, which was already over what was budgeted for 2023. And as you can see, the actual from 2023 was astronomical. So we need to figure that out. So let's ask Chief about police overtime. I know we have a little bit of a personnel shuffle going on there, so maybe there's more to come on that. We also need to ask him about the guns and supplies. I understand that some of our guns are aged and that he believes we need new ones. I don't know if that means we need all new ones all at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're looking for a grant to help us.
Okay. I do think we need to figure out the MMO. I mean, the reality is that there's no way we can afford all of those things. And I think that there have been other years where there's been a little sort of false narrative that like we are way over budget and things like this. But I mean, the number of additional items in here is the tax increase to our residents would just be such a shock. It's unacceptable. So we need to figure out where to control some of these things. What is that? No, 178. I don't have 178 is it an increase over 2024? I don't have it as an increase.
I have it as flat.
Yeah.
178, yes.
Okay.
All right, so
177, I see 15,000 over 6,000 supplies with you guys.
all right, and then the next item that is an increase, a significant increase is union salaries. Let's double check that, Maureen. I believe that's probably related to, the negotiated union contract increases. It seems like a decent amount of money over 2024 because I didn't think that we had increases that significant year over year. Perhaps we did, and I don't remember. There were a couple percentages in there. So let's double check that and double check that it's accurate with the number of full timers that we have right now. Let me just do one more and then you say whatever you like. So then, all right, so the problem, our main problem is the police MMO. So that is line 362. Line 363 is the non-uniform MMO. That's for our administrative staff pension. That increase is 12,000. So, and that's also jogging my memory that we only had a revised MMO for one of the plans and it must have been the uniform. So that's where we need to focus. Bob and Maureen, we don't need to focus on the non-uniform. It's just uniform.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the items I wanted to highlight, and those are the items I think we really need to be digging into before our next meeting, so we have more information and can make a more informed decision before we really even touch any of these other line items. So I know, Matt, you had
So I would
something you wanted.
think- Or maybe we should, Maureen, Katie, Kate, maybe me, sit down with Dave Grady and go through some of these things too, just together. And also I need to print out this as well. It's a little hard to follow on the laptop. I know, I have to wavy version of it.
You have more headers than you have. You need to export it.
But
Okay, well, and also that's a good point. If you prefer to have this printed out in front of you, it comes like this, and I don't actually prefer that, but I know some people do. Let Maureen know before the next meeting, and she can print out copies for those that do want it. It's a lot of pages, so for those that don't want it, don't. let's just do copies where you really are into it.
It would be good to color code it and prioritize it and print what we're focusing on, because if
Mhm.
there's certain things that are non-negotiable, we might as well kind of kick that to the side and get very focused. I mean, we're looking at a 400-line spreadsheet, so it's difficult. I did have a question about my favorite topic, insurance. There is a row 368 insurance claims. Very just curious about the amounts, because these must be retained losses within a retention. There's no budget for it, but as of now, it's 287,000.
What line is that?
It is row 368. We budgeted nothing. It's at 287 now, and we're budgeting so far, nothing. So what
That
is that?
seems like a lot.
Yeah, actual fund for 64,000.
Well, I don't know, some of these line items can be confusing because you need to also look at them in combination with the revenue. We should ask Dave that, but it may be an insurance claim that we got money back from our, the insurance carrier. It was a covered claim. So if that is true, then we would have another line item where the funds are coming in. But let's ask Dave.
Could be losses though that we paid out within deductibles. That's what I'm worried about. And usually your insurance broker would be able to determine what the estimate is going forward based on the past. So if this is actually unbudgeted retained loss, that's concerning.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any big tort
No.
claims.
No, I mean-
So we need to
So
find out
it's
what
not,
it is.
yeah, it's
I don't think that
merits
it's.
further scrutiny.
Mhm. All right, well, let's ask Dave what that is.
Yeah, and the package policy entry 364, the insurance market's a little softer at the moment, so just curious what's driving that. It could be that your agent has told you just to budget 10%.
That is
Um,
high right now. We don't have exact numbers.
Yeah, right. So when does it renew? Do you know?
I have to look at that.
Okay, it could be that it looks like a 10% budget increase, so it's just something to push back on them. Every penny counts.
All right, Bob, do we need to, I think based on the budget timeline, this does not count as far as sort of a first reading or anything. Like, I'm not
No.
sure, we don't need to be going through all the different smaller budgets.
No, I mean, I think tonight raise issues of things you want us to look further into and come back with something that you would then deem to be the preliminary budget for advertising purposes.
All right, and Beth, your note was based on the insurance on line 368 and then also
Yeah.
just premiums in general?
Yeah, well, it looks like there's a budget for the package policy, which is 285,000 for 2024, but it's going up by, it looks like 10% in 2025. So it sounds like it's conservative estimate, and we should just push back on the agent, I think, when the
Okay.
renewal comes up.
Okay, I noted those. So you'll see the tabs at the bottom. This is our general fund. This is where most of our revenue and expenses go in and out. And you'll see, sort of the different sections relate to, there's a police section and public works and things like that. There are other tabs for other, the liquid fuels budget, which liquid fuels funds come from the state and we have to use them for specific things, mostly resurfacing our roads, or paying back loans to resurface roads that were already resurfaced. The sewer fund is related to a sewer fee that's on the tax bills and needs to be used for things related to maintaining our sewers. And so those are smaller budgets and much more specific, so they don't necessarily need as much attention, but feel free to go through those tabs. And if you have questions, we should be prepared to talk about those at the next meeting. A couple things on, so the funded org tab, which is towards the back. We don't have 2025 on there. We had,
The other spreadsheet that we worked on last.
okay, is it still in here or no? That's okay if it's not. I'm gonna add that to the list for next time, funded orgs. We had the presentation by most of them. We know the fire companies both of the fire companies have asked for about a $6,000 increase. Some of the MPAA organizations have as well asked for somewhat of a minor increase. And we listened to the library presentation, which I believe ended up to be about a 3% increase request for them. None of that sounds outrageous to me, but like we really do need to figure out some of the larger items as well. So please keep those in mind for next time. Go ahead.
Does the spreadsheet in front of us have the contribution to the media ambulance? Because that's another.
Yeah, actually,
that's
does
another
that?
budget bust.
Do we know if that,
They just put that in there.
all right,
130,
You know what line item it is?
I don't know.
I didn't see it, but I.
so media fire is down. Where does that go?
I only see 3 instances, but they're all South Media Fire Company. And then in the yellow box on line 397.
So line,
$50,000 is the EMS contribution that we were just.
yeah, so the EMS contribution is in there at 80,000. Media Fire has asked us to increase that to 130, with the reason being they need to buy some new equipment. It sounds like a new ambulance. I think, I've requested a discussion with them on that. When they came to us last year, the requested contribution was to split a $240,000 charge 4 ways between 4 municipalities that use Media Fire's ambulance, us being one of them. We had extensive conversations with them about that. It sounds like we are somewhat of a loss leader because we have the nursing home and the retirement facility, which those are Medicare and Medicaid patients where the ambulance, the set ambulance insurance payout does not actually cover the service provided. So we ultimately agreed to do that because it was a very last minute thing, and that was a charge for ALS that who is it, Christiana Care that funds the, or
It had been Riddle, but they renegotiated and pulled their.
so
Riddle's part of it.
okay, so Riddle was charging them for, this is for ALS advanced life support, that for the people that go to the more serious ambulance calls. That was done somewhat last minute last year, and I think we were very felt a little bit uneasy where you're not exactly sure where this huge charge was coming from or how it sort of came out of the blue. I did not feel like there was any sort of commitment to contributing to buying additional equipment or planning for the future for capital equipment there. And so that's what our discussion is going to be with them. I am very confused about the whole situation. There are some EMS providers that charge municipalities for services and others do not, and I don't understand why some seem to be able to do that independently and some cannot. I also was not sure why we weren't able to obtain our ambulance services sort of right from Riddle. And when we asked on a group phone call last year, Riddle's answers seemed to be they didn't want to step on Media Fire's toes. And so maybe Commissioner Cooper can help us with all this. I think we need a lot more information, and I'm not sure that I would like to go to 130 this year, especially since we have so many other things to discuss.
The underlying reason is that Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements from the federal government were cut significantly, such to the point that all the hospitals in the region except Penn are now in the red. So every hospital in the region is trying to figure out how to contain costs. And, one of the biggest cost centers for all of the area hospitals, especially in Delco, that need to provide EMS because there's no centralized, countywide EMS, is, the EMS services. Kroger is like the largest EMS provider in Delco, for example. And that's why you saw a lot of news about Kroger trying to negotiate with some towns directly for increased payments because they're just trying to, make their revenue. Mainline and Riddle are in the same situation, and so they just backed out of previous funding agreements with other area EMS companies, such as Media Fire. And with their budget pulled, they were just looking for municipalities to kind of chip in and make up the difference. And that's how we got involved a few years ago. And it's been, since that time, an escalating cost increase.
So I think we are planning to talk to Mediafire. We're planning to talk to our fire companies. We're planning to talk to Swarthmore, which has their own ambulance, just to understand more about this. We also, Brookhaven covers our southern portion of the township. And so we should probably be discussing things with them as well. So I guess more to come on that.
I'm happy to take the lead if perhaps you or Maureen could give me contact information for some of the various EMS companies in the area that provide coverage. I'd be happy to reach out and CC loop kind of our board leadership. And
Yeah, and definitely coordinate with Matt, because Matt's already working with the fire companies and Swarthmore a little bit.
And I know that we're talking, about, the possible collaboration with Swarthmore taking, on a greater role. And, with that, they obviously have EMS services that they run. So it conceptually makes sense to me to not necessarily continue to escalate costs going to, Mediafire when we're, bringing on board or collaborating more closely with Swarthmore that's providing EMS services. So, we just need to, have a conversation about how much we want to spend on all these different agencies. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when 911 is called, somebody's going to show up. Care is going to be rendered. They're going to be brought to a hospital. It's just a matter of how we decide we want to spend our dollars to, support what we view as a fair manner.
Yeah, I know we've discussed this as a board. I still feel very strongly that the county needs to step in on this. It's really out of control and very hard for the smaller municipalities to really understand, and it does not make a ton of sense the way it's run right now.
I mean, I know we're going to meet with gentlemen from the Mediafire hopefully next week and try to understand, but also push back because there are other ambulance companies that service the township, and we're not being asked to make this level of contribution. And so we need a lot more answers before we would ever even contemplate going to the number that they're asking for. But I think we have questions even with the number that we've been giving. Kind of felt a little bit like there was a gun to our heads at last budget season. So we got to get some more information.
We don't need to do a murder and legal obligation to fund them. And if any of our residents call that,
Do other counties that we know of have like a more streamlined system for this?
So Philadelphia has a more centralized EMS authority where all of their EMS is run through the Philly Fire Department.
Okay.
Delaware County has a very decentralized process. We have 49 municipalities. Several of them have their own little EMS agencies. Riddle previously had an EMS agency. Roger has an EMS agency. Many of the colleges have little BLS units that they, send their college students on when they're picking up somebody who drank too much at a party. And so there's a very decentralized process, and that decentralized process, makes it very hard to kind of coordinate on, cost saving things like you get economies of scale for purchasing. If you're like one large agency instead of several small agencies, you can kind of bundle together a lot of administrative work and cut down duplication of efforts from like a billing perspective and various other administrative things. So from a kind of numerical financial perspective, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is something that kind of just evolved organically over time, and I think probably needs to be revisited on a kind of a larger level. So we'll see how that conversation progresses.
So historically, the answer from the county has been, well, this is the municipality's obligation, but I think they've more recently realized that that's not really feasible long-term. And at a meeting we were at last year, Representative O'Mara and Senator Carney were bringing up the fact that a lot of areas, especially in the western part of the state, have created authorities. So even if the county doesn't technically have an authority, we could create an authority, but then but that would require coordination, which I've harassed Solicitor Scott to no end to try to somebody needs to sort of be the champion and start that. And Councilperson Ruther has suggested that she would be in support of it if if the people wanted it. So I think it would be really great if we could try to organize people and get going on that. And Commissioner Cooper's on it. Yeah. All right. So that
One question, I'm sorry. I was looking at Road 245, which is the recycling disposal fee. And there, if you look back in the history off to the left, and this probably relates to other line items too. There's a history of being very conservative in the budget, and then the number comes in sometimes much lower. And I'm just curious, and I realize being conservative is important in some cases, but if we are having trouble with the budget, we should be careful with this. And I'm just interested in what's going on. If you look at the budget 2024, it's 435,000, but through 10/6, it's 282. Are we expecting some huge jump between now and the end of the year? Because we've budgeted the same amount.
So that fee fluctuates, and I know Dave was always telling us that we were really making out with it, but that I think could flip at the drop of a hat. And so I think that was the concern. Dave was a conservative budgeter. And so there are probably line items in here where we could be less conservative. I mean, we need to, all within reason.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good point, and those things are hard to predict. I don't know, maybe our solicitor would have ideas on that, or it does look like we're being pretty conservative there. So yes, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
but
see
we-
it on Route 243 as well. It's just interesting to me if you go back, way back to the left, and if there's a history of us always coming in low. Then maybe we look at it again.
23, I mean, 4 to 10 was budgeted, came up to like 400. So
Yeah.
it was close.
Yeah, that 2023 is pretty close. Let's see. I mean, let's keep tracking that.
Mhm.
Maureen, let's talk to Dave, and Solicitor Scott, I don't know if you have any input on that, but,
I don't.
all right, so
And Kate,
Let's
you
think
said
about
that
that.
could drastically shift. Like
it's
quickly?
market, yes. I
Oh,
think-
okay,
Yeah.
that was what we.
He's
were
being
discussing,
conservative
like,
for-
How does that?
Yeah.
Put it in.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, that's what- that
It's
was
the
like, why?
market.
Okay. So it's basically market.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone have any other line items they want to discuss, and certainly look at this, and you can
Mhm.
always add on later, suggest that our manager and or engineer or solicitor run down some information on the line item before our next meeting.
I did have a question about row 6 and just what it means when it says prior year's levy. And it's a very low number, and then you've got negative amounts.
That might be collections, we have for things like real estate taxes that are overdue that have been collected later. Is that right? Or
I'm not sure, frankly.
Okay.
It's,
6.
That is, sometimes when we get, their taxes in, and we might get something in like January or February. So when we get those in, we put them back to the prior year of which it was supposed to be incurred,
Okay, so it's late
Okay.
payments.
pretty much,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I think
Thank
there's
you.
actually another line item now that we're talking about this, for things that come in through collections. I think those are actually, Portnoy those are truly delinquent. It sounds like these are just somewhat late and haven't
Okay.
actually gone to collections yet.
Thanks.
Okay. I am on a tight timeline tonight because I have people leaving for the weekend. So unless anyone has something burning, let's adjourn, but let's move on to the manager's minute before we adjourn. And then let's keep, everyone please keep their focus on the budget, and we will run down some of these line items. So with that, on to manager's minute.
Okay, so I just have a couple things. There's a household hazardous waste event this Saturday, October 12th. This is the last one for 2024. It's at the Upper Chichester Municipal Building at 8500 Fury Road in Upper Chichester. You must register for the event. And for more information and registration, you can check out the county website. Nether Providence Township is holding a bulk trash event on October 19th from 10 to 2. There'll be drop-off locations at the South Media Firehouse as well as Hepford Park. And that is all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Hope everyone has fun at Family Fun Day, and our next meeting is the budget meeting on October 17th.